everybody on our Freedom Builders on Zoom. And this was actually requested by Miss Carrie Lord, who is here today, and she said, I really want to know about wealth building. I want to know about buying rental properties. I want to know about, you know, how do I build wealth through real estate? And I was like, first person that came to mind was Mark Z, because I had been following him for years. And then Sharon, who's a really good friend of mine, and she is financially free through real estate. So she was kind of my muse, like, I need to buy rental properties. So the four people that we're going to be speaking to today, all of them are, I would say, financially free through real estate. They do not need to work ever again because they invested right. And so all of us would love to be in that seat one day. And so I've written down a bunch of questions because I think a lot of us need that inspiration. So we're going to make them go back to the beginning when they first started with their first property. How did they do it? All those great questions. So we'll introduce everybody one by one so you can kind of know who they are, how long they've been in the real estate business, how many units they own, and we'll start with Miss LaDondria, one of my business partners on Call Group. She works with us, and another inspiration of mine. Yeah.
So, I guess I bought my first property back in, well, I guess if you really go back, I bought my first house when I was 23, and my husband and I bought our first property together back in probably 2012-ish. It's a duplex, townhome, had an apartment underneath, and you know, we really just wanted to start building some residual income. So we just kind of started with that, and then it really kind of snowballed from there. So.
And she won't say it, so I'm going to say it for her. But LaDondria and her husband, they own, what, 85 properties now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 85 properties in North Carolina and Virginia,
Right.
no other states. Yeah.
No, not
Yeah.
in other states.
So that is pretty amazing. So she is, like, literally, at any time that we get somebody on our team that says, I need an investment, we're like, LaDondria, you need to help these people. So
Those are all rentals, like all of those? Okay.
Isn't that awesome?
That is
Yeah,
awesome.
that's amazing. So,
Very impressive.
right? So then this guy here, a friend of ours, a good friend of Sharon's. In fact, Sharon said, I've known Adam for so many years. He's such an inspiration. You need to meet him. And then him and I met, and him and Sharon have exchanged ideas and business, you know, through the years. You've asked each other questions. So I'll let this guy introduce himself.
Yeah, first of all, it's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me. And, you know, I've looked up to Sharon since I started in real estate. So it's very humbling to be here. So essentially, I got started about 14 years ago. It was my 14-year anniversary, June 3rd, matter of fact, so I'm in my 15th year now. And I got in the very end of 2007, so you guys know what happened. Beginning of 2008, you know, the world collapsed. You know, it was the greatest recession since the Great Depression, and everybody was very scared. You know, there was blood in the street. It was the opposite of what we have now, where everybody's excited. Everybody was petrified, and real estate was not cool at all. You know, everybody was getting out of the business, and now you have everybody getting into the business. So I bought my first property January 2nd, 2008, and it was a primary residence, so it wasn't a rental. And I moved in, and literally 10 days later, the market collapsed. So I watched my $124,000 townhouse in Mingo Creek in Knightdale, which you guys are probably familiar with, drop to $70,000 by July. So the fact that I'm sitting up here and I'm supposed to have some good advice for you, I was not a great investor in the beginning, just know that. I mean, I literally lost $54,000 within a matter of months. But my whole mentality, and this I really want to leave with you today, if you are an investor, you need to think long term. There are too many people trying to get rich quick, trying to get in shape quick, trying to feel good quick, and it doesn't work. You've got to think long term. If you think in terms of the long game, there is no failing, because anything that you do, you're going to learn from. So when I watched that property value drop, I just said, well, hey, it's going to go up at some point, and I knew in my mind that I was never going to sell it, and it was just a matter of time. And you see the same thing, I don't know if you guys dabble in crypto, but the same thing's happening right now. It's dropping, but if you have the mindset that, hey, it's going to go back up sooner or later, and you hold, you have nothing to worry about. So long story short, that same $70,000 property is now worth about $210,000, $220,000. So it went back to the $124,000 that I paid for it, and now has increased in value drastically. And we know home value is like 22% right now. They're appreciating something crazy. You know, so I watched that go up, and then I moved to Briar Creek, which is where I still live, and I've been in my current house for over 11 years. And again, I've definitely gotten to a point in my life where I could buy a nicer house, but I love the location. It works for me. I'm kind of a Warren Buffett at heart, I guess, where I'm comfortable over there, and location is my number one. So when I can walk across the street, my gym's right there. I can walk to Walmart when I'm in a pinch. I was ashamed to admit that. You know, that to me is a huge deal. And the highways are all right there. So I've been there for, 11 years, and over that time, I've acquired about another 26 rental properties. Now, I do things a little bit differently than most. I'm not a huge leverage guy, so all of my rentals are owned outright. So I pay cash for anything that I'm buying, and I understand that not everybody is in that position, and I wasn't in the beginning. Just understand that happened over time, and it is a process. So, like I said, if you're thinking long term, you're on the right road. But, getting rich quick is, it's overrated. So.
Getting rich slow is sexy.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. It's the new sexy.
Does he need a microphone? Can everyone hear him?
I've been told that my voice carries.
I was saying, you need a microphone. You're like right in the middle, that's right. And you have other, 2 different LLCs. We'll get into that.
I do, yes.
He has like 65 other homes that they're selling and stuff right
Yeah.
now. So he does a lot of great things. But I love that.
And I appreciate that.
Again, that you guys have paid for properties. And that's the strategy long term. So Mark Z, and by the way, when Sharon walks in, let's everybody clap for her. She's had a day. But Mark Z is my partner in Michigan, obviously EXP, and so he was one of the guys that I came to the company for. I mean, I was like, I love this guy. I've known him for years. We grew up in the whole Mike Ferry system, so he smile, dial, make a pile when he grew his business. But now he's gone off to different directions in investing. So Mark, introduce yourself and how long you've been in the business and your portfolio and what it looks like.
Thanks, Tina. Thanks for having me. I've known Tina for a number of years, and we have the same roots. We were basically cut from the same cloth, and we have a lot of the same background. I've been in the industry. I've been in the game. Gosh, I feel like I'm old when I say this, but I've been in the game when I was 21, and to be honest with you, I never really had the comfort or the security of feeling like, I guess, what I was making was going to last, because quite frankly, I was making more than my cousins that were doctors and lawyers, and so I've always been the one to diversify and get into residual income. So many years ago, I started off with one single family home, and that single family home transitioned into about 42 or 43 single family homes. And forgive me, I forgot the gentleman who was just speaking. What was his name?
Adam Grossman.
Adam.
So just like Adam, my goal was to pay those properties off. I got to a point where I finally paid them all off, and I was sitting on about $10 million in real estate that was completely paid off, and I thought I was king of the hill. I felt like I finally just made it, However, I've got some mentors that have been in the game even longer than me, and they changed my complete way of thinking. That $10 million in real estate, and I'll talk about this later because I don't want to take up the entire segment right now because I'm sure Tina has some other questions. But long story short, those 43 houses are now down to I think I have maybe 5 or 6 left because I have some long-term tenants that feel bad kicking them out. But that has transitioned into, I personally have just under 400 multifamily units that I personally own, valued around, $40 million. And then I have partners, and I own another, and Tina is one of the partners, Sharon is one of the partners. We have properties all over the country. And I own another, probably 500 or 600 other units with multiple partners, because each property that I'm partners in is like $30 million. So those we partner up with, and we take those down throughout the country. They're called syndications. But I'd love to talk to you guys about why I went from having my properties completely paid off and transition that $10 million into $40, $50 million. Because I used to have that mentality that paying them off, you're king of the hill, you got no risk, and you're good. until I realized the power of leverage and how you can use the bank's money and change that entire portfolio for legacies to come. And so we'll talk about that later.
I love it. Could you guys sort of kind of hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, so they can hear you. Because for whatever reason, your voice is not casting through the TV, so I'm glad that they can hear you. So yeah, 400 units, which is crazy, and now he leveraged his money to go into big. He stretches my mind, and so I'm nervous. I'm like, oh, here's my money, Mark, and so yeah, I mean, it's a growth process. So. Well, that's amazing. And then Sharon, I'll introduce Sharon, even though she's not here, and she'll be here. But Sharon also, like Adam, started back in 2001. She's obviously got into real estate, and she bought her first rental property. And now she owns, I think she said, 20 properties, all paid for. Again, she brings in $30,000, $40,000 a month in residual passive income just from those properties. Which is life-changing. I mean, again, she can wake up comfortable and not have to go to work, but she loves it and she's a workaholic, and that's why she's late today, because she's working. So, yeah, so let's start with you, LaDondria, on, you were 23 years old, you bought your first rental property. So when you were buying it, how did you decide to buy it? Like, was it somebody in your family that said buy it, or like, where did you come up with that thought? Initially.
Well, I mean, of course, I wasn't too far out of college, and, renting, I started out renting for 6 months, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to throw my money away, I'm going to put it into something that's going to grow for me, so, that's what I decided to do, is buy a house. So, I knew that from very early on, working in corporate America wasn't going to be my final solution, and that I wanted to be able to have financial freedom one day. I set in my mind a goal. I want to retire by the time I'm 45. Of course, I don't have to work now, but I do. It's feeding my soul to be able to help as many people as possible. So, and just kind of change the narrative, from generation to generation. So really my quest is to help people change from generation to generation and grow wealth. My background comes from banking. I worked in finance for many years, and I help people from one part of that financial, tower, but it was kind of like red tape. I couldn't help but so much. I wanted to help change the mindset so that we could change it from teaching our youth how to handle the finances better, and to how to grow something, from one generation, leave a legacy, leave something behind. So that was kind of my goal, and back in 2012, I decided to continue to grow that and expand it even further. And like Tina said, we have 85 properties, single family, multi-family, commercial. And not only that, we have about 7 or 8 other businesses. And to really,
trying to get her energy.
And she sells real estate.
And I sell real estate, so
Yeah.
To create that multiple stream of income from different avenues. I don't want it to ever be on the hamster wheel forever. And it's like, hey, I'm just going to come here. And many people in real estate have changed careers. And all of you have the same opportunity to do something different. Even when you're speaking to your clients, you're buying your first investment. This is an investment. This is protect your equity when you're selling a home. It's just, what are you going to do with it?
What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it?
There we go. Remix. I like it. What are you going to do with it? Remix.
Just do it. How about that?
You're good. You're good. Yay, Sharon's here. It was our fault. This is supposed to be in her office. So she's a rock star. So I told him just before you walked in that
I was listening.
You got okay. So she started in 2000. So tell him about your mindset. Were you rich when you bought your first property?
Oh, hell no.
No.
So it is scary. I think it was very, very scary. A lot of people know who've heard a little bit of my story that I grew up in a trailer. We had nothing, holes in the floor, barely running water at times, and I just had a mom that had good work ethic and wanted you to get educated. I went and got my chemical engineering degree because it was the best thing I knew I could do with some math skills, and somehow landed in loving real estate. As I was getting married, I said, gosh, I gotta buy a house. And my husband to this day says, why were you wired 23 years old, 24 years old to buy a house. I said, I don't know, something in me, have to buy a house. So, you know, got hunting down. I proved to him we could afford $1,000 a month payment with our little state employees credit union loan, and I saved up my 10% while he was out buying skis and stereos with our engineering degree money that was starting to flow in, a whole $35,000 a year back then. But when you were working, you know, burger shops before then, that was real money. So then I've just always been a saver, I think. So then the next round of money started coming in, and our sister-in-law needed a place to stay while she went to NC State. So I kind of got the idea. She was moving to town. Well, she had 3 roommates, and we split it 3 ways. What would that land, and could we put scrounge up enough to put down on a little place? And we found one, and there my real estate career began, because the listing agent had a electrical engineering degree. I knew growing up. I had a chemical engineering degree. We went to state together, and we clipped on that deal. I didn't even have my real estate license yet, and said, okay, I'm gonna figure out how to do this. So I got out, figured out how to do it, and have just helped other people do it. And then I got to the point of seeing things that I thought were too good to pass up. You started seeing there was a wait list back then on a little neighborhood off of Westgate Road where people were able to buy $90,000 to $100,000 houses, and there were lottery drawings when nobody was doing that back then. You guys are seeing it now again. And their next little neighborhood, after I sold 3 people properties in there, I said, their next little neighborhood around the corner, I better get my name on that wait list. And mine was number 5 coming out of the list. I remember still in that property today from 2001. I don't count the little shabby thing I bought for my sister-in-law as much, because the rest I've really done well with. That one we got rid of as soon as we could, because we realized we made a mistake where we bought that one. But just know that it was just one piece at a time. I got in my head, and this is what I tell my other clients, and if you guys can use this if you ever want to buy your own and get confidence and then sell them to other people, was if I could just own 10 and let them get paid off.
That's right.
And use that next 15 to 20 years to let them get paid off, someone else is buying it for you. Even if you're breaking even, you don't have to be making a cash cow every month, because this market doesn't really allow for it. If you could break even and take some tax returns and credits while someone else is buying it for you, you will own something with value in the end. And I thought, well, the first couple, I can own them. By the time my kids go to college, that's a college fund. I don't know how to make stocks work. I don't know how to do other types of investments. I learned real estate. So I bought a few. Next thing I know, told my husband, he's still like, you're crazy, what are you doing? Well, when I see a good deal and I have nobody else to buy it, I gotta buy it. So I buy it, and then I'm like, guess what? If we have 10, if we got 10 paid off, and we wanted to retire, that's $10,000 a month, probably net, back in those days, that we would make. Don't you think we could live on that? You grew up poor, I grew up poor, we could live on that. And he's like, yeah, we could live on that. So that was our next story. Well, the next thing I knew, I was up to 24 after doing 23 years, right? But I just flipped one out because I owned it 2 years. I offered it to one of my investors. He didn't buy it. I said, if you don't buy it, I got to buy it today. It'll be gone tomorrow. I bought it. Didn't have the best of driveway. Well, this market's up so high, 80 grand it went up in the 2 years I owned it. So yeah, I'm gonna pay a tax hit. I didn't do the 1031 thing, but if you guys learn it and learn the 1031 exchanges and learn these things, you can help your clients who have money. And my clients who have money, I've probably got a dozen of them now that own somewhere between 4 and 8. And every time they get a little influx from their corporate America job that they can cash out some money that's extra to them that they don't need, they still want their stocks and they still want this and want that. They want to diversify some. They say, Sharon, what would you buy next? And that's how I approach it. What would I have bought next? I feel fortunate that I got in this group, and now I've been introduced to Mark, and Mark's like, you need more doors. You don't need each of these little individuals. So I've got it where I'm going to cash out just a few in this heightened market. In case it comes down one day, I'll cash out a few. And then I'm diversifying with him into some, apartment complexes and things. Because I only know what I know, I do what I know. But now I'm trying to get exposed to other people. And, I think we've all learned that. The more people are around who are sharper than us, who know some things better than us, we can take advantage of and use and move to that next level. So I'm just wired that way, that I gotta save and I gotta let the next thing grow to something more. If I ever go backwards, it's like shattering to me.
Yeah.
So something about that's just in my cloth. I'm just not a spender, I'm a saver. Tina got me to break out of my shell a little bit here and get some things.
Shoes.
You're a progressive.
Yes,
You're a progressive.
She is a progressive,
Yeah,
yes.
it
Now she's addicted to toys. She's like, when are we going to go to the outlets?
Yes.
She buys up the whole store.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And you kind of mentioned, Adam, when you were buying your first, I mean, you kind of told us the story. Obviously, you lost all that money on it. And I think all of us, you know, even when we bought our first, I was nervous and Kevin was nervous. And here we had money in the bank and we made money, but it's just nerve-wracking.
It is.
So, so do you think that, you know, maybe speak on, you know, even though you were scared, it gets easier, you know, and kind of, because in the beginning, did you buy them all cash in the beginning? You
I
said,
did not.
Okay.
I did not. So, and of course, you know, anytime you venture into new territory, it's going to be scary. I mean, you've never done it before, you know, so it's a first experience. So yeah, I mean, I was definitely scared, but what I always thought was, what's the alternative? You know, if I don't invest, what's the alternative to that? I know a lot of people who do not invest, and the people that I know that invest have a lot more money.
Yes.
So I figured that, going back to what I had said earlier, no matter what, over time it's going to work out. And that really is the key. You've got to think 30 years instead of 3 months. Because, I mean, especially in this area, we live in one of the hottest, best real estate markets in the country. And I really do not foresee the universities, the proximity to the mountains and the beach, the incredible job market that we have, and that is only getting better. I don't foresee that going anywhere in the near future or anytime. So buying real estate in this market, in this area, to me makes all the sense in the world. So yeah, it is scary, but it's well worth it. You know, anything worth having is going to be a little scary. It's going to be a sacrifice, but it's a sacrifice worth making. So.
I agree.
But didn't you find, I found, like, once I put my down payment down, if what I knew I could make on rent
Yes.
is someone paying for it, I didn't really care long-term wise. Okay, now that went up 50 grand. The next 2 years it went down 20 grand. It's kind of like owning a stock. Like, it didn't matter till I'm going to cash it in.
Right.
Because
Right.
as long as someone else is making that payment, which I can tell y'all after 20 some years, I've never had vacancies. I always buy in nicer parts of towns, lower price points. I'm not a slumlord side of person where I'm chasing checks. The checks come in, they take care of the properties, they re-rent quite a bit too and don't leave. But as long as they're paying that nut, it's not so scary, right? Because yeah, I might have 2 weeks vacancy, but it's not gonna make me go broke for 2 weeks. But as long as someone's buying it for me, I don't really care these ups and downs, because I'm not every 2 months worried if I'm gonna cash it out. I'm renting them for a year at a time and releasing off of those years quite often.
And I think people get afraid of like the timing. I gotta time it right, or what if the markets go down or go up? When the market goes down, more people rent, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
and now the markets are up and more people are coming
Yeah.
because the market's up and
Right.
and the rents are higher, right?
Right.
So yeah. So Mark, you want to chime in on that? I know you got your start. I mean, now you're worth lots of money, right? And you're not as afraid to make decisions like that. But go back to Mark Z, the first few properties. I mean, were they a success? Were you wealthy at that time? Like, were you a successful real estate agent when you bought your first, or were you just starting out?
Gosh, I was just starting out. I had to borrow the money from my aunt and uncle for the down payment. The rents.
And speak as loud as you can.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, well, just because you're only on our little computer, for whatever reason, we can't cast. So use your big Mark Z voice.
Okay, is this better? Is this
Yes,
better?
that's so much better. Yeah, as loud as you
Okay.
can.
All right. So, when I first started, my rent barely covered my mortgage payment. I had to borrow the money from my aunt for the down payment. So I really had no business even buying a property, to be honest with you. I think I was a realtor for maybe a year or something, and I didn't really have any money. But I just had this, just like Sharon said, I had this vision that, gosh, if I could pay this off one day, same thing. And, friends and family would tell me, yeah, but Mark, just be careful because the real estate market goes up and it goes down, just like stocks. But in my mind, the value was irrelevant because I was just looking at the dividend, meaning the rent each month. That's all I cared about was the rent. And that wasn't changing. In fact, just like Tina said, in a bad market, the rent actually goes up. And there's more demand for rentals. So I wasn't worried about it. As long as I could just cover my mortgage, or even if I was short, I figured, even if I was short, at least they're paying off my mortgage. That was the goal. And so I started off with one property. But I didn't have, unlike, Sharon and Adam, I didn't have the money to keep buying properties. So I had to wait, I think about 2 years. The market went up in value, and then I refinanced. And then I learned, oh my gosh, when you refinance and take cash out, it's tax-free. I had no idea. I'm like, in my mind, it didn't even make sense. So, I mean, I'm getting this money out and I don't have to pay taxes on it. And yeah, you don't have to because it's your own money. So I would take the money out after 2 or 3 years. I had some, I don't know, I think it was like 20, 25 grand. I took 20, 25 grand out and then I used that to buy another property. So now I was leveraging, I was sitting on 2 properties, you know, and I waited a few more years and then I saved up a little cash too. And then those properties came up where I had enough equity that I could pull from both of those properties. And then I used that money to, so I was never really cash flowing. I was just paying down the properties, huge tax benefits and what's called depreciation, which is a whole different subject. But you know, when you hear these stories like, you know, Donald Trump only paid $600 in taxes, he's not doing anything illegal. These are tax benefits that are for people who own real estate. And that's why many wealthy people behind them, they have a lot of real estate because of this thing called depreciation, which offsets your taxes, and you end up not really paying much taxes on the income you do make on your rental properties. And the taxes you do pay, it's not at the same tax bracket as your other income because of the write-offs and the depreciation. So that story went on, and you know, it was rinse and repeat for a good 10, 12 years, maybe 15 years of accumulating single-family home, and that went on, and pulling money out and buying more until, you know, I got to a point where I got them all paid off. And like I said, I thought that was the ultimate goal, was to be debt-free. But I realized that was probably the most foolish thing I could have done. I sat on those properties, paid off for a good 6 years, probably 5 or 6 years, before I realized that was not the best thing you could do.
I love it. But do you see the theme for all of them? Like, they started before they were ready, and you just had this desire to say, I'm going to do this. And I didn't have that. Like, I was just selling real estate, buying. I bought houses, like, so our personal homes, but I always thought, I don't have the stomach for this. Who has ever thought that? I don't have the stomach to buy rentals. They're going to trash it. I'm going to have to go in there. Things are going to leak, and it's a big headache. And I don't want to deal with all of that nonsense. And so I think I've heard it from my own clients. I'm like, do you want to invest? And they're like, no, I don't have the stomach for it. In fact, my father-in-law says it all the time. Talk a little bit about that, like your experiences through the years. Now we all know you own so many of them. You started humble beginnings with your first, and you know, all of you had different investment strategies. But talk a little bit about managing them, or how do you find them? I mean, are they really a disaster? Is it just a one-off here and there? Talk about your experience, LaDondria.
So yes, some of them are a disaster.
Use your yelling at your children voice.
Some of them are a disaster. It's not going to be a perfect property. You know, with my strategy, I kind of look at it from an investment standpoint. Like, it's like if you were buying stocks, you know, something that's, you know, when do I want my income really? It's like, am I buying the properties for a purely income base? Am I looking for appreciation? You know, kind of looking at a long term, you know, and I kind of design my portfolio around that. So definitely some of them do have some work that need to be done. Over the years, you know, we buy them, we figure out how much we're going to put into a property. You know, typically I don't put more than $5,000 into a property, but with that money, I take it and I do things that are going to make it easier for me to rent out again. You know, I'm changing the type of flooring, things that are going to make it easier for me to turn over. In most cases, a lot of the portfolio is in places that I'm going to have the income, and I have longer term renters in them. So, you know, that definitely helps make the expenses a little bit lower. But I have a certain margin that, you know, that I try to keep that between, as far as fixing it up. And I had to, so many and spread out. I don't have a property management company, so that was the hardest part starting out. Getting things repaired, gathering the people to do it. I couldn't find a property management company to manage it.
We offer it.
Yeah.
We manage over 250 properties. If you guys need anything, holler at your boy.
Right there. Take a picture of his shirt.
Let's do deals.
So, you know, we actually, you know, with that said, you know, I had to kind of piece things together. So I kind of put my own crew together, and my crew goes around and they keep all the maintenance on the properties for me. And, you know, the rents come in, and, you know, it's a little machine going now, so it makes things a whole lot easier.
I love that.
And that's a good exercise too, is starting with nothing. Because then you have to be resourceful. You know, you have to get out there, you have to meet people. It's the same thing as when you start, you know, real estate sales. You have to figure out how to get clients. It's the same thing. So it's great to go in and not know anybody, because then you got to start from ground zero and you actually know what you're doing. You learn. So that process is necessary. I do believe that. You know, we weren't all, you know, I have a ton of resources now, but that's built over 14 years of grinding and doing the right thing and building relationships and thinking long term, not being transactional, but building the relationship. And when you do that with people and you do right by people, you're going to build a good business. You're going to build a good portfolio when you do it the right way. There's no shortcuts.
And you self-manage yours. In the beginning, did you self-manage?
So in the very beginning, so I moved out of the first house that I bought in Nightdale, and I moved over to Briar Creek where I still reside, and I just managed it myself. And I still remember to this day, and that same tenant is still in there, by the way, good old Jackie. She's been there the whole time, and I've never raised her rent, and that's, you know, that's just my strategy. If I've got a really good tenant, they're taking care of the place, and she's a traveling nurse. You know, she pays me $960 a month for 1,300 square feet in unit in Mingo. I could easily get $1,350, but again, that's part of the charitable contribution. Is that something I can do for her? And that extra $400 a month means a lot more to her, you know, than it does to me. So that's just, and eventually I'm leaving it all charity anyway. So I might as well do some while I'm here. But yeah, I still remember going and picking up that money the first time. I picked it up in cash, that $960, and was like, holy shit. I'm on to something. This is going to be awesome. And we just kind of went from there. But it was definitely that kind of dopamine high of, hey, I just did something smart, and it felt really good. And to this day, I still like to create leads in real estate. I still like to, you know, put together these creative scenarios. It doesn't matter how much money or how wealthy I get. It's that high of doing something, of contributing, of accomplishing something. So I think a lot of it comes down to who you are as well, you know, and what your, you know, level of risk is. I think Sharon kind of touched on it earlier. You know, different properties appeal to different people. Know yourself. Like, do you want to buy a manufactured home? And I own some of those. You know, I always say I don't discriminate. But, you know, is that something that resonates with you? Like, are you strictly wanting to buy nicer homes? You know, and there's really no wrong strategy. Just get started. You'll figure it out along the way. You know, I lost $54,000 in 6 months, guys. I'm not some guru, or, you know, I've gotten better over time. But the great thing about real estate is markets change. The strategy that I was employing back then in 2008 through 14 doesn't work now. I used to knock on doors in apartments to get buyers. I go knock on doors in apartments to get buyers now. What the hell am I going to sell? You know, there's no inventory. So that would not work today. So you really have to look at the market that you're in. All the numbers and the spreadsheets and the formulas are out the door right now, because you ain't going to get a screaming deal. Buy something that makes sense. Am I making a little bit of equity up front? I know the market. I know most likely this will continue to go up over time. I don't see this market changing anytime soon. If it does, it will go from, hey, I'm not getting 15 offers, I'm getting 8, or I'm getting 2, or it took me 10 days to sell this property. But I really don't see some crazy crash coming where you need to be concerned, because this is a totally organic market. You know, we're not giving loans to folks that can't repay them. I mean, they're still pretty strict. The guidelines are pretty rough right now. So I don't see some crazy, we're not in a bubble. I don't see a market crash coming. As soon as I say it, it's going to tank. But, hey, that's good for y'all, man. Start buying everything in sight. And they're scared to buy. But, you know, at the end of the day, there's always opportunities, guys. I'm finding rentals right now. I'm under contract for a duplex right now. There's always opportunities. If you're out there, if you've got positive energy, if you're networking, you're meeting people, you're doing it the right way, doors will open.
On that note, you know, Laura in our office
Literally.
She had a call from a past client, said, I want to sell this lot. And so he said, okay, let's go out and see this lot. And then he said, I want to sell my house. Okay, fine. We go look at the house. We're walking down the driveway, and he says, by the way, I have 75 townhouses in Cary that I also think I want to sell. And, you know, get me a price on those. And we're like, holy moly. And all I thought about was Mark. I'm like, I got someone, you know, so I was talking syndication and putting investors together, and Laura goes, where did you come up with this stuff? I go, that was Mark Z. So we've got now a contact to potentially go in and acquire, you know, this massive complex, and everybody will get in and invest on it. You just don't know. You just don't know. So,
So you ask.
yeah, and so Sharon and Mark, I have to imagine that you all had property managers when you had a lot of properties, but in the beginning, did you just kind of do them yourself, or?
Yeah, I always did mine myself, just because I already put together a painter and a handyman and this, so if they called for something, I could handle it.
Right.
But I can tell you from day one, I never rented my own properties. I think that's a fool's game. Because honestly, my dollars of what I can make selling houses is so much more. So when I've got someone who focuses on that and that's their wheelhouse that I've known and trusted for years, and she's willing to, for the 1 month, for the 12 months rent, go and meet them and background check them and this and that and the other and make the checklist of when they moved in and when they moved out and all that, have it. And it's never done me wrong either, because I found the people who go directly to the owners. I've had 2 people in history decide they didn't want the property manager to rent it up for them, and she'll just rent it up and leave it, and you can keep collecting the rents if you want. And that's how I did mine. And they didn't want that because they thought, oh, that's $1,000 or whatever the rent was that I would spend. Well, guess what? Those are the 2 people who had people trash their places because they knew where to go. They knew to go pick on and put pressure on a quick move-in on a buy owner. When mine are filtered, background checked, criminal checked, everything under the book, they don't go through that property manager if they already know they're not good quality tenants. So she's always got me great people. She knows people well. She always tells me I have that gut feel and I'll pull their credit if you want to accept their lease. So I've used her for years for that part, but I would say a few years ago, after getting to 20-some and feeling like the distraction of the repair call once in a while, we didn't have many, but was still more than I wanted to deal with. We just bundled a bundle price to her and send them over to her, and now she manages them.
Do you agree with that, Mark? Have a property manager?
You know, while you got the time, if cash flow's tight, you know, there's no reason why you can't do it yourself. It's a great learning experience too. I just see too many people wanting to get in the game, and then they get into this, you know, analysis by paralysis, and they never end up getting in because they're worried that they're going to get the wrong property in the wrong area. You know, it's the cheaper the house, the more issues you're going to have with the tenants and those kind of things. But there's no wrong area, right? It's just, you know, it's a little bit more challenging versus the amount of cash flow that you're going to get. You know, so you're going to make more money in the challenging areas than you are buying in the you know, the bougie areas. But you know, some of you can only afford the challenging areas. So I still think you should get in because there's landlords that are making a killing in those challenging areas. You know, the houses are cheaper, you get more rent, and believe it or not, you still find good tenants if you screen them properly. And know what to look for, you know, maybe 3 times, you know, their income. You know, there's certain parameters which you guys can email me about, and I can tell you what we look for, but, you know, 3 times, their income needs to be 3 times their rent, give or take. You know, credit scores you look and see is, you know, maybe it's damaged credit, but it's based on medical or, you know, student educational loans or something like that. So, you know, there's certain things you look for, but, you know, just get in with one property so you feel comfortable, because after you get that one, you're going to get those worry bugs out, and you're going to realize this is not as bad as the stories you hear, because all you hear about is that person that bought the one property and had a complete nightmare, couldn't get the tenant out, didn't pay, and then that scares everybody. But that's not the case most of the time.
Not reality. Yeah, I mean, we have, you know, because of Sharon really, and LaDondria too. I mean, LaDondria's like, just buy one, just buy one. Here I'm like, I'm nervous to buy one. And you did, and we've knocked on wood. You know, it's been so easy. Property manager, you know, checks just come in, houses are paid for, and it's truly in the last, I would say, 7 to 8 years has built our wealth through just even 9, 10 properties, which is amazing. I had a thought and I just lost it. So how are you setting everything up? Let's talk about like the setup now. You know, LLCs, like they want to buy their first property. What's the advice you give somebody buying their first? Like, is there a certain way they should set everything up?
Yeah, just
looking back.
set the LLC up ahead of time, so when you go under contract, the LLC's name is on the contract. That's one word of advice. I do put all of my rentals in an LLC, but initially, and going back to what Mark says, in the beginning, I think you really should, one, do everything on your own. So, one of the things that I did is when I moved out of that property, I did not put it in an LLC right away. Maybe I should have, but again, I was so busy trying to become an investor that I wasn't worried about every single step. It didn't bite me, but knowing what I know now, I would put it in an LLC in the very beginning, the first rental, have that set up ahead of time. I would go ahead and get with your attorney or set it. Some people know how to get online and set up themselves. I'm not that crafty, but get on there, set up your LLC, and when you go to make the offer on that property and it goes in the contract, make sure the LLC name is on there. So, and that kind of protects you if anything happens.
Asterisk if you're paying cash.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because most lenders aren't gonna accept anything that is not
Valid.
your name, that the deed matches your name, and that you have the credit. So we shift ours as they get paid off into an
Into
LLC.
an LLC. So that's great. That was a good point
Yep.
that you caught. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you can't really until they're paid for in cash.
Yeah.
I love that. So what advice would you give to buyer? I had a couple agents say, well, I'm gonna actually just yesterday, this lady in Texas, she said, I'm just waiting for prices to come down before I buy my first rental. And I'm like, regardless of what happens in the market, don't you think like time is all you need? Right? It doesn't
Right.
matter the interest rate, because I'm sure, what was your first rental? Did you buy them at 8%? What was the interest rate back then?
6.375, and I thought I hit the lottery. It
Yeah.
was 6.5 at the time.
Six, Mark, was it about 6-8%?
Yeah, it was up there.
6-8%. I mean, we're at like still hovering around 3. So yeah,
And people are
You
complaining.
gotta just get in, that's what I'm saying,
just
like.
get in.
It's time, real estate is all about time, the amount of
Time.
time that it's, that's going to get it paid off. And the experience, if you don't have one, forget about what you're making, it's no different than when you get into real estate, who cares about the referral fees or what you gotta do or how much your split is, you've gotta learn, right? It's the experience when you first get in, so you've gotta just get in so that time starts ticking and you feel comfortable, getting more.
So what about commercial properties? I know Christina Valkanoff is a friend of yours and mine, and she only loves commercial property. She loves commercial
She has
properties.
few residential, but
Yeah.
because her husband has Dairy Queen franchises, and sometimes they're in a strip mall in Sanford, that someone wants to sell the whole strip mall, she'll buy the whole strip mall.
Yeah. What do you all think about buying commercial right now? Because I think to me, I would just go, oh, it could be a little scary, a little dicey, with businesses going out of business so fast here and there and COVID. What's your thought, Mark, on commercial property? Do you own some still?
So I have a retail shopping center. I'm not a fan of it. I'm just strictly multifamily because I'm ultra conservative. And I learned during this COVID, retail, office, industrial, like all these things are very cyclical. There's times where they're great, nothing's better. There's times where, depending on the economy, they're very, very challenging. Where multifamily, 20 years, it doesn't matter, good, bad. Even during the pandemic, the worst time in history, 98% of my tenants still paid.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that just taught me over and over and over again that multifamily or, that doesn't have multifamily, residential real estate is just resilient through the good times, the bad times. And I'm at a point in my life, I'm not starting over again. So I'm not taking those chances. I know commercial is probably less headache. You don't deal with the toilet being plugged and the garbage disposal not working and, tenant calls and things. That's just the utmost emergency because, the garbage disposal is just not working and we need to come out today. Those are the things you deal with as a landlord, but, again, you're getting paid for it. So I'm I'm a big residential rental real estate guy because I've been through good times, bad times, 08, 09, and my real estate was very, very consistent if you look at my P&Ls.
Yeah, I love it. Now, what about, we talked a little bit about multiple streams of income. You talked about crypto, which, who knows about crypto? Because I know nothing about it. Yeah, Susan? knows
Well,
about
this is a
crypto.
perfect example. I invested it, but I know nothing about it.
Well,
So
yeah.
I've just gotten started in it. So
So what are your multiple streams? Like you've got rentals.
Yes.
You've got crypto. Is there
Yes.
something, because I think that whole mindset of multiple streams of income, literally, I tell my parents all the time, we joke, I'm like, you failed me. Like, you failed me in the world. At 20 years old, if you would have just told me about real estate, buying property, and diversifying and not exchanging time for money every single day. Like, my son will get his license, he will know about residential property at 18, and he will do something so he can do whatever he wants in life. So what are your multiple, maybe there's things you're doing that we don't have right now that we can implement?
So I have an MBA from UNC Charlotte. I'm going to save you the time of getting an MBA. There's only one word that you need to master, and it's diversity. So diversification is key. So I'm a firm believer. First off, I made my first couple million from real estate. All right, so I started there. Once I got there, because real estate is something I understand. Okay, so that was easy. And then along the way, I've always put money in the stock market as well. My aunt's a financial advisor, so in the beginning I was kicking her $400 a month, just dollar cost averaging, very simple, $4,800 a year, and no worries. You don't touch that. It's a retirement account. And over time, that is built up to over $1 million. I mean, I do more now. It's a couple thousand, and then I pay as much as I can at the end of the year to get out of taxes. I mean, there's tax ramifications there as well. So I've always done that, and then now I started buying individual stocks. I've got a TD Ameritrade, and if I believe in something, it was Biogen the other day. They just released a drug for Alzheimer's, and I wanted to get behind that. So again, this is kind of almost a form of charity. I mean, you want to get behind that and invest in that. So, some of that is gambling, but at a certain point, you can take some of those risks, and it's also fun. Enjoy this. It doesn't all have to be so super serious. It's fun too. This is a game.
Yeah, I love that.
Very much a game.
So stocks and crypto and real estate, those are your buckets.
And then I own several businesses as well, and then the property management company that I own. I own a
yeah.
brokerage, of course, and then I'm involved in multiple projects where we're flipping houses or doing things of that nature. I own some land as well. So.
And do you have lending, like title or lending? Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
See, so it's like multiple buckets. Because in real estate, if you have a real estate team, you can use that transaction to really kind of create other revenue sources. So.
But understand, in the beginning, it was just me. It was literally just me with a stack of business cards, knocking on doors and waiting tables on the side. Okay, giving a card to every table that I waited on. So it's that mentality. It's more. What matters is your mentality. Focus on that. You have to have confidence. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know that no matter what, I'm going to make it. It's going to be all right. That no one can give you. There's no book that you could read. There's no seminar that you can go to. There's no podcast that you can listen to. You have to believe in yourself and just get started.
I love that. How about you, Miss Sharon? What are your multiple buckets?
I don't have multiples as much. I think mine's always just been real estate, but I do now. I have some property that are just land that I'm turning into some developments. That I told him I'm gonna lean on some of his thought processes sometimes on that, because he's done paved some ways before on doing that. So I'm trying to get into that because I'm partnering with some builders, building some things. Back in the day, we flipped a few houses just for some little bit of pocket change. That it was just change some surfaces, you can make more money. I've taught my sellers how to do that now. So that's mostly what we've done. I mean, clearly with what we've got at EXP, there's multiple levels that have come into place that I've been grateful for, but I've not, had that as much before.
That was your first time in stock, because you said, I don't own stock.
No.
I don't do stock. I was
First
like, you
time
don't do
we
stock.
bought some, because again, I think you get on bandwagons when you're dealing with clients. And
Yeah.
they're in corporate America, and there's Cisco stock, and there was NetApp stock, and it's splitting, and it's tripling, and it's doubling, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put $10,000 in and see what happens. Well, it went down to like 1,000 in no time. I'm like, I ain't doing that shit again. so I was like, nope, peace out. I'm just gonna buy a property and watch somebody pay it off for me. That works.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And how about you, ma'am? What are you have a lot of businesses, so
Yeah.
you have multiple streams.
Yeah, so we definitely have multiple businesses, and I came from the financial consultant world, so of course I have some stocks and bonds and all of that whole gamut. And then one business kind of led to a need. It was a need, started another business. So definitely different sources of income. Real estate started. It's on its own. It's on a little beast now, but.
I love it. I love it.
And it snowballs too.
It's snowball,
You know,
yeah.
'cause
That's something too.
you're reinvesting. I mean, look at Warren Buffett. Your greatest asset is time, guys. Really, remember that. The wealthiest people alive all have something in common. They got started young.
Early.
Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. These guys were child prodigies. They were already investing, they were already learning, and they were already focused. It's time. Don't beat yourself up. If you don't fully understand how to do this today, make it a goal that in 2 months you'll know a little bit more. 2 months after that, a little bit more. A year from now, a little bit more. And it will grow. Incremental improvement over time will win the race.
And we know a few realtors that can help you buy property, right? How about you? Oh, go ahead, real quickly, Donna.
I just wanted to add to kind of what Adam was just saying too. You know, I've heard people say they listen to a lot of podcasts, and you know, you just have to get in the game. It's going
It starts to hurt you
it
at a
does,
certain point
and no
because
matter
everybody's
what,
seeing something different.
and no matter how old you are, I mean, when you start, you know, you just have to start. And really, it's just kind of, you know, you make your first, you know, decision to buy the home, and then think of your goals. What does that do for you? What is buying an investment property going to do? And I think that's the greatest motivator. You know, whether it's, you know, to not a number of properties. I think maybe Marianne was telling earlier, it's not the number of properties that you have, is what is it that you hope to achieve with that? You know, let that be your motivator, you know, to kind of get off the sideline and get in the game.
Get in the game. I love it. I love it. What about you, Z?
Everything pretty much feeds off my real estate. So, you know, we've got the property management company that feeds off of, you know, my properties, and then we manage a bunch of others for other people. And then we've got a home improvement company, which again feeds off of the real estate and the property management company. And then the title business, and we have not done the mortgage yet. We just have a preferred partner. And then, you know, all the multifamily and real estate that goes along with that.
Nice, nice. I love that. Well, I want to open it up to questions, possibly. I mean, does anyone have? Yeah, there's questions all over. So if you do have a question, though, I'm going to ask that you come up, and so we can just speak it into the. I know, because everyone online is not going to know it, and then I have to repeat all the questions. Just no, don't put your hand up. Mary Lord, you're first. Danielle Harvey, I saw you. Marianne, why don't you ladies just come up real quick? Just stand over here. You're a star. You're on. It's just our Freedom Builder family. Go ahead, Carrie. You're first. I saw your hand first, so maybe just ask.
Am I talking in
Or
here?
just whoever. You can talk straight to them.
Pam and I have a question because we have a lot of people who have moved here to Raleigh from California, New York with tons of money. They're looking for investment properties at the beach. Do you guys have any vacation rentals that you do? And if you don't, why not? Because I just know from what we're, you know, seeing, there's a lot of money to be made there.
There is.
Because it's like weekly, $5 grand, $6 grand.
You can make money in anything, including selling Mary Kay and whatever if you work hard enough at it, right? So that certainly, I'm never going to shoot anything down. I think the key too is just be open-minded. There's certainly opportunities there. It's not something that I have gotten into, but I have plenty of friends that have. I've just always focused on Raleigh-Durham because it's such a, you know, the triangle, because it's just such an incredible market. And I felt I want to make my first several million in that market, and then I'll venture out and diversify in other things that maybe I don't understand quite as much, because it's a little more risky when I venture out there just because I don't know as much. Right. You know, if I don't understand something, that to me is already kind of scary. But at a certain point, you know, I'll go out that way as well, just because it's diversification. And even if it's not a home run, it might just be a base hit, and it's fun. It's fun. That's okay to have some fun.
So I have one international property, and it took a little while longer to acquire that property, but it's been a great income source, and it's on the island.
It's Jamaica.
Yeah.
Jamaica. She got a property in
It's
Jamaica.
Jamaica, but you know, of course, I can't be there all the time, and I'd love to go live there, but maybe one day. But right now, it's been great even through the pandemic. You know, we've had it rented out for months at the time. So luckily, I was able to kind of talk to some local people there, and I have someone that keeps it up while I'm away and rent it out. So they offer a whole concierge service, even for picking people up from the airport and bringing them and taking them around while they're there. So that's really helped, and you know, I'm looking into some other opportunities there as well. So
Yeah, and I think in that market, because we had our lake house, which we bought for us, but I was so like, now that the money machine turned down with Sharon's inspiration, I'm like, I'm gonna Airbnb it. And so I did, and there would be months we'd make $5-6 grand. The payment on it's $1,700, so it's a great turnaround. But it was all a very competitive, you know, on the lake. I looked at everybody's listing. I wanted mine to shine. I wanted mine to be better. So I would think at the beach it would be, you know, there's some beautiful homes.
Yes.
What's the unique part? What's the difference?
Right. Well, your home shines because it's decorated so pretty.
Well, and
And
that's
that's the thing,
that's
a
a
lot of
strategy
these
too,
places just
right?
aren't.
They're
Yeah,
not,
they're
yeah,
horrible.
they're
Yeah.
horrible. So I think if I were to buy a property at the beach, I would invest my money in making it look like a model home, and then you're gonna rent that thing, you know, hands down. And it was easy. Airbnb does everything. They take the taxes out. Everybody gets a review, so it gives you accountability on both sides. The owner,
Yes.
like VRBO, it's only the owner, it's not the tenant or the person that rents it. So I love that Airbnb. I would do more of those, but it wouldn't be I don't want 50 of them. So, yeah, great question. Do you have any vacation rentals, Mark? I don't think you do.
Gosh, I used to have 27, 28 pre-COVID, and then COVID just wiped us out.
See, there you go.
You know, the business travel all stopped for us, and so we converted those to, you know, just long-term leases. There's still a huge demand for that, so it was an easy transition. We sold the furniture off, and now we're just back to the regular. It's more money, but maybe if you're in a destination area, Detroit's not exactly a destination area. We got about anywhere from $500 to $1,000 more a month. But when you do the math, because you're paying for all the utilities, cable, Wi-Fi, and then you have to switch the furniture up every couple of years. People don't take into account the true expenses. So when you take all that into account, besides the fact that when you are in the vacation or the short-term Airbnb business, you are literally the front desk girl or guy at a hotel.
Yep.
Like every little thing they call you about, every single thing. And so if you're not staffed for that, or if you don't have the time for that, it's not what it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
Just imagine when you're in a hotel, any little thing you call the front desk. That's how the Airbnb business is. So I didn't want to get into that. My staff wasn't prepared for that. My wife ended up doing it, and we got out of it after a year or two. It just wasn't worth the hassle for us.
Yeah.
Another one that I've heard, I'm sorry to interject, is the 3 to 6 month rentals, fully furnished, depending on where your house is. So I'm entertaining that idea on my current house, because I live right in the flight pattern, right in Research Triangle Park. You know, you get the airport there, you get the jobs there. People are coming in for like 3 to 6 months at a time. And I've been told, this is what I've been told, and I'll find out, and we'll try it.
The furnished one.
You know, 3 to 6 months, fully furnished, you can rock it.
Yeah.
So
No, I heard that.
I'm just gonna move out, then I have to move my furniture.
You do
Is that it?
You do it first and let us know.
I'll let you know. I'll pass that down. I'm trying that next.
You're next, ma'am.
The next
Hello.
one.
Hello, I had a question about the LLCs. Do you have one LLC with all of your properties under them?
Good question.
Or do you have each property in an LLC? Because that's only the truly way to separate the liability of each of them. And we have not been able to find a vehicle to put them under one, but keep them separate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So me personally, I have a business partner that I own some of my properties with, and we have an LLC. And then my personal ones, I have in another LLC. So I keep them all. There are 2 LLCs for that. And then I have other LLCs where we're flipping a house or we're doing other things. It really depends on the nature of what we're doing. But my personal rentals I have in one LLC, and then the ones that I have with various partners that are in different LLCs.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Because
how
I was
I've
just
done
trying to think of if one property sues you, it lessens your personal risk, but they could go after your other properties. So I was trying to figure out a way. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, so listen, it's a headache, but every property should be in its own LLC. It makes it very easy. Your accountant will thank you too. But I've got my own bank account, own EIN number, and own LLC. And when I first started off, I started to get fancy about the LLC, thinking of these cool names. But I got away from that because it was complete. It was hard to remember which property. So it was the Address LLC, 123 Main LLC. And so I know it's a hassle to have 30 different bank accounts, but every LLC should be separated for liability purposes, like you just said. If you get sued, especially Adam, if your properties are all paid off.
Yeah.
They can literally go after all of them. So every property has its own LLC, its own EIN, and its own bank account, and its own checks. So for accounting purposes, at the end of the year, it's very easy for my accountant to figure out exactly what happened with expenses and how each property performed. And I'm kind of a weirdo like that. Like I like looking at, this property performed better, this property had some capital improvement, it's okay, why didn't it perform? It just makes everything so much easier and more organized. And that's really the right way to do it.
Okay, that's good to hear you say that. We found out of Delaware, there is an LLC that's like an umbrella LLC that will let you have each individual property kind of in its own cell, but they don't do anything like that in North Carolina. It sounds like they don't do that in Michigan either, but it would be really nice if we could get those in our states, because it would just make it easier. But,
Yeah.
and then I had a second question, and I'll sit down. Has anyone had to evict anyone before?
It's like asking if you ever had a bad buyer. Hell to the yes.
No, interesting, yes,
I
no,
haven't,
yes,
no.
and I have, so,
Okay.
but it was
It's
not
in your look.
difficult.
That's right. Okay, man.
Okay, so LLC you say could only be if it's cash
Paid for.
paid for. So what do you do when you have loans? Just keep it personal.
Yeah, I mean, technically your deed and your deed of trust, all of that has to match. Like my husband said, there are some people, my husband's an attorney, so he looked at all these things like in fine grained detail. He said, you know, there are people that will close and then go and change the deed into an LLC. He said, but just know that your deed of trust says if you do that, they can call the note due in full and foreclose on you if their financial times get tight. As long as you're making the payments, they'll probably never do that. But my husband is as risk averse a person as you possibly can, and just because he knows if he changed that name, they can call it due that minute, he did not want to ever, he's like, it basically says don't do it, so he's not going to do it.
Right,
You
okay.
know.
I have another question.
Okay.
Some full of questions. So you guys were talking about taking home equity lines of credit from your houses. So how much are you like, how do you figure out how much you put down if you need a loan? Like we have, my first house was an investment, now we rent it out. It's a townhouse, but we have a lot of equity in it. So would you suggest like taking equity out of that to buy a new one? And if so, how do you figure out the right amount of money to put down, if that makes sense, to buy another one?
I think it's to me, it's interest rate driven, right? At 25% down, a lot of lenders will give you a slightly better rate than 20% down. So wherever you've got to be in that continuum of putting money down that you're comfortable with, shift it out. I will say, although interest rates are 2 3/4 and 3%, I just had an investor this weekend. It's 4%. Understand, investors are typically going to pay a point higher, but the numbers still made sense for what we were going to pay. So you just, you know, have to look, do the numbers make sense? Where do the numbers make sense? It's always been a numbers driven thing for me. Where do the numbers make sense?
Okay, one more question, I'll be fine.
This is Venus.
Well, I keep telling my husband we need to buy more. So the next question, no, I just forgot it with my ADD.
Happens to me all the time.
How do you figure out price points with your investments? Again, your numbers thing, like what's too high for an investment?
I don't
Does
think
that make
anything is
sense?
the
Mark,
numbers
he
make
just
sense.
bought
A lot of it depends on the
$39.
market too.
Yeah,
The rental market and the buyer market. I mean, it depends.
yeah. There are sweet spots. To me, in our market space, 250 to 350 is a sweet spot.
Yeah.
But you
That-
can't really get that anymore.
Yeah, you can.
Oh yeah, they're
Just
everywhere
everywhere.
for 285
Do
this
you need a good
weekend.
buyer's agent?
But I mean, I guess I like more the bougie areas.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's the big part. Yeah,
You can get-
location driven.
The thing about it is,
Yes, that's
look
right.
at a piece of land in Cary, let's just talk about Cary, 250 grand, just to buy the land. You
Right,
can't build a house on that land for zero, so
right.
it's already obsolete. That you are never gonna find 350 to 450 product ever in this market again, so buy it all. And if you're going on a listing appointment, think about trying to buy it, if they are available, you know, if they
Yeah.
don't wanna bring it to market, I would be buying those. I mean, I froth when I see one, I'm like, oh my god.
Why don't you buy my listing? It's already sold.
How much was it? You
350.
didn't tell me.
Yes, I did.
So.
We messaged about it. So, what? Like $500,000 is probably a little crazy.
Call me.
It wouldn't be that number's not my wheelhouse. I don't go that high.
That's so. Like, what's your guys' highest typically?
So here's what I think about.
Yeah.
I always think about if that property was empty,
Mm-hmm.
do I want to carry a
Could you afford it?
$4,000 a month note?
Right.
That's the
Yes.
problem with single family homes, and until you have enough of them, you know, when you have 20 of them and one's empty, then you can cover that no problem. But when you're just starting off, I would strongly suggest to try to keep the price of the home as low as possible, because if it does stay empty for a month or two, it's not the end of the world for you. As you gather more properties, you know, now you start getting like, you know, Adam and Sharon, you know, when you have 10, 20 properties, you're almost in the multifamily business because your occupied properties will cover your unoccupied properties, if that makes sense,
Yes.
right? You can start to leverage your risk a little bit.
Yeah, if you're going to go that high, I'd look at it as a primary, and it's more of a short-term investment. You know, you move into that, live in it for 2 years, and then sell it You know, that would be the recommendation. Because that's investing too, it's just a shorter term, right?
Right.
So that would be the strategy that I would employ with something in that price range.
That's what we tell Kevin, every 2 years we move, it's an investment strategy.
Thank you, guys.
See?
Yeah, it is.
One-minded the guy.
Make a move right too. And Mark said something, this is off investing, but he said something in one of your videos, you said, you know you can afford to buy something when you can buy 3 of them at the same time, right? So if you're gonna buy a Rolex and you just had this amazing closing, and you're like, I'm gonna buy this Rolex, it's 10 grand, you better be able to hunker down 30, 40 grand for those 3, and that's where you know you can afford it. So I love that gauge, because even if you're buying a house, can I afford to buy 3 of these houses? That just means, and you said, living beneath your means, right? Even though you can afford $1 million house, can you afford a $3 million house? No, then you probably shouldn't be at the million, be at 5, you know? And so I love that. I share that with everybody now. So, well, thank you guys. I want to be timely. We're 12:10. Mark, thanks for taking out your precious time up there. You're amazing.
My pleasure.
Nice to meet you, Mark, from afar.
Yeah, he's the guru. He's the guru of everything.
And Sharon, I want to give you guys something to think about, before we leave. I was sitting exactly where you guys were sitting with those properties that were paid off, and it felt good. But I want you to think about this. Imagine if you took, let's say you've got, let me just use an example. Let me just say you've got, 10 million, and you can dummy this down to whatever you do have. But let's say you have $10 million in paid off real estate. In this country, you know as well as I do, you can go and buy anything you want with 20 to 25% down. Let's say 25%. If you took that 10 million and by means of either refinancing and pulled 7.5 million out or sold them all, that's what I ended up doing. I just sold them all. I didn't want to deal with them. But imagine if you took that 10 million out and you leveraged it and bought, let's say $40 million worth of real estate, because that's what you could buy. Whether it's 1 property, 3 properties, 5 properties, multifamily, you could buy literally $40 million in real estate and put 25% down, that 10 million down, right? And you guys are comfortable enough where I can have this conversation with you. It's no harder. In fact, it's easier managing a 100-unit, apartment complex than it is 40, 50 houses, all over. But imagine if you took that 10 million and leveraged it and bought a $40 million apartment complex with your 10 million, and knowing that in 20 years it's going to be paid off. It's going to be paid off. We both know it will be. And now you've got 40 million sitting there instead of just sitting on this 10 million that's paid off for the next 20, 30 years. But I was sitting there and I thought I was king of the hill until I realized, oh my God, I'm not thinking big enough. That's what these guys do. They're constantly, and that's why, why does Donald Trump, why does Bezos, look at these guys got a lot of loans out there because they're leveraging the bank's money to go and buy more and more and more. And you guys are in a position where you can do that because you did pay it off, but now you got to take that money back out, especially with interest rates the way they are right now, and go borrow someone else's money.
Well, we'll have you do a whole course on that another day too, because he makes me expand my brain, it hurts.
Once I heard this, I couldn't sleep because I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm just sitting on this pile, and so, I don't know, maybe tonight it'll resonate,
Thank you for depressing us.
I'm going to follow you on Instagram.
No, follow him. He's awesome. Yeah, no, you're awesome. Thank you, Mark. Really, we do appreciate your time. And thank you, LaDondria. Thank you, Adam.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And then if you guys have questions on investing or you have, whatever, just throw it in our group. We have amazing people, obviously, that, know the answers. So it's just starting with your first one, which I did, and I was scared, and now I'm just obsessed with it. So now I want to do bigger deals with Mark. I have $50 million in the bank when we retire. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, guys.